guys, welcome to Warlord Weekly. We're going to do something a little different today. We're in Santa Fe here with Anatole, and he's going to give us basically a foundation to footwork class, all right? We want to do some footwork going forward on this periodically, and it's going to be a great class that's going to teach you what you need to know from the beginning moving into footwork, all right?
Yeah, so a lot of people, they can see how crucial good footwork is for our game, and especially where our sport is going. How things like movement, things like angulation are going to enhance basic aspects of the game, like timing, like your feints, like your defense, like your offense, right? Good movement will teach you or will enhance all of that. But honestly, one of the biggest problems that I see when trying to teach footwork is people have a really hard time understanding first how to stand. It's like the old saying goes, before we learn how to walk, we must first learn how to stand, right? So what I'm going to be showing you guys is just some really basic fundamental tools that helped me kind of develop my own stance. And the stance is something, if you take any of my SKDC classes, that, you know, I harp on this a lot. The more things you learn that enhance your fighting, that help you develop, you're going to have to constantly be kind of refining your stance and kind of figuring out how they fit in. But I'm going to give you some basic tools that you can do to help find a good stance. Now, one more thing before we get started is, as you can see, Brett and I have different body types, right? Everybody is built differently. So when you're looking at how to develop a stance for you, you need to pay attention to your body. You need to pay attention to how your body feels in a stance, right? What Brett does is not going to be the same thing that I do. They may look very similar, but at their core they're different because that's Brett doing it and that's me doing it. We may look like we fight differently or similarly, but it's really different, right?
Very much so.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is this thing I learned in a Muay Thai class. It's been one of the best ways to kind of express how to find a good L stance. The L stance is the most prolific stance in hand guard.
Just standard basic stance.
Standard basic stance. Okay, so what you're going to do is first you want to make sure that your posture is good. Okay, so we're going to kind of we're not going to throw our shoulders back all the way so that our shoulder blades are almost touching, but we're just going to kind of roll them back and just drop them a little bit. We're looking to feel comfortable, okay? If you're tight, you're going to fight your own body. Yeah. When you move, when you throw a shot, when you're trying to block, the tighter you are, the more resistance you're creating for yourself for each one of those specific movements. So the first thing we want to do is kind of make sure our chin is up. That's something that Delos preaches a lot, which is a fantastic visual kind of tangible tool you can use, is make sure your chin is up, you're looking around, your shoulders back, and that you're standing straight. You should feel kind of your spine stacked on each other, right? Each of your vertebrae should be in a straight line or comfortable, right? You shouldn't be feeling any stress on your back. You're going to put your feet together, but you're not going to put them all the way together. Okay, you're going to leave roughly about a fist distance between your feet. The reason I like to use the fist as a measurement tool is because, like I was saying, everybody's body is different, right? Everybody's body is unique, and the fist can be a kind of an interesting little measurement tool of like, oh, you know, like how far should my guard go? Well, if it's too far out or it's too close, where's that good middle point? Well, it's about a fist distance actually. Huh, kind of cool, right? Where you can extend and still retract comfortably, right? You're in the middle zone of both of those two options. So same thing, roughly about a fist distance. You want to make sure that your feet are also not outside your shoulders, right? I don't see why you would do that if you're putting them together, but that's another good thing to remember while you're working on your stance, is you never really want your feet to go too far outside your shoulders, right? You become off balance, you can overextend. Generally not a great idea. Everything has its own time and place, but generally not a good idea. So we're standing up straight. We have about a fist distance between our feet there. And what we're going to do, and you can do this with either foot, but we're going to work on our right foot, okay, is we're going to pivot on our heel. Boom. Right there. So we get a good L, right? It's about 90 degrees or something like that, right? And we're just pivoting. We're not picking up and putting down. We're just pivoting on our heel at that good 90-degree angle. okay? So now we've kind of engaged our hips are a little off center, and we're not gonna be fighting people like this too much, haha, right? So what we're gonna do is on the ball of our foot now, which is this part, right? We're going to, again, rotate, we're gonna pivot to about a 45, okay? And here's one of the times that you want to check in with yourself, that you want to say, okay, are my hips in a good place? Are they parallel to the ground? Are my shoulders still back? Am I starting to lean? Did my chin drop, right? At each one of these points, you want to do a little self-check-in. And the more you do that, the more comfortable you become in your stance and how to find your stance. The more you'll know what a good stance feels like for you, right? Okay, so we did heel, ball of the foot. We're going to do another heel pivot at 90 degrees. Check in with your body. Then we're going to do another pivot on the ball of our foot again to a 45. Okay, so now we're getting into feeling like, okay, this could be a fighting stance, right? We're still a little tall. So what do we do when we're a little tall? We don't bend at the waist, because that's going to bring your shoulders forward. That means your weight's going to be going forward. That is also going to mean the majority of your weight is going to be on the front of your foot. If me and Brett are fighting, and the majority of my weight is on the front of my foot, it's going to cut off my ability to effectively close on him and effectively go away, right? Let's look at it in percentages. If I have 80% of my weight on my front leg, and he decides to charge me, I'm going to have to take off explosively. I'm going to have to generate a lot of power to lift myself off that front leg to get out of the way. This is a super quick game, as I'm sure you guys know, right? So that's going to give him extra time. And during that time when I'm like, lifting off, I'm going to be susceptible to get fake. He's going to be able to reach somewhere. It's bad news bears, right? Conversely, if I'm going to aggress on him and he takes a step back, now I've got 100% of my weight on my front leg, and this is as far as I go, unless I either make a motion of coming up or switching my feet. But the slightest wrong step can cost you the W, right, and get you the loss, right? So you want to kind of have this even weight distribution. So how do we find that? While we're in our good stance, remember, heel, ball, 90, 45. Make sure our hips are parallel to the ground. Make sure our shoulders are back, chin is up, right? We're nice and loose again. And we're going to sort of engage. We're going to engage the knees. Now, a couple things happen when we engage the knees. You're going to have a sense of coming up on the balls of your feet. And that's something that's generally a pretty good idea, right? Now, you don't want to be so far up on the balls of your feet that you're like, you know, you're doing Michael Jackson, right? And you don't want to be so flat-footed, right? Or that it's going to be, again, another issue that it's going to take time for you to be able to do directional changes, closes, retreats, all of that kind of thing. But you want them to be engaged is the best way. So you're kind of up on the balls of your feet. If you're doing this correctly, a good tactile way to kind of tell is you feel a little bouncy. Feel a little bouncy here, a little bit of a spring in your step. You can kind of shift your weight back and forth, but you should feel that at some point you have even weight distribution on either of your legs, and you can easily, without a lot of effort, because you're on the balls of your feet, shift that weight to either leg as necessary. Okay, so that's just a really easy way to find your stance. One thing that's going to do if you're fighting, if we have a good stance here, is I'm going to be able to make decisions up here, and my body is going to be able to respond a lot quicker and a lot more fluidly than if I have a bad stance. The way you want to think about it, right, is if I'm leaned over, even if I'm on the balls of my feet, and he goes something here, I have to unhitch, right, throw everything back. I had the right idea, right, but am I in a worse position because of it? Absolutely. Everything's back, right? I have to regain a good composure, good structure before I can effectively engage with him again. Probably by that time, Brett's just going to follow up and kill me, right? However, if I have a good stance, I can then use good footwork to escape the situation. Here, right? Still on the balls of my feet, my structure is still intact, and if he throws that other shot, I I'm in a perfect positional place structurally to respond effectively. And that's just some basic tips that can help you find your good stance, help you put yourself in good situations. The more you think about it, the more you develop it, the more you check in with your stance, the more second nature it's going to become.
Absolutely.
Right? So eventually, you don't need to be like, all right. Aha! Right? You'll just kind of naturally feel good here. Right? And you'll just fall into it. So that's some basic things that's going to make developing your footwork a lot easier. It's going to make finding angles and incorporating motion into your game a lot more intuitive.
Thank you very much. Of course. All right, guys, thanks for listening in. Remember, footwork is very basic, right? A lot of it seems high end, but in the end, you're just kind of stepping, right? This is where it really comes down to fundamentals. It's going to be the most important part of your footwork, such as your stance, right? That's what breaks down the most when you have poor footwork. When we speak about poor footwork, what we're really saying is you're moving your body and you're moving your feet in a way that you have lost that stance, your ability to move, your ability to defend yourself, all right? So paying attention to the basics of keeping a stance while you're moving is what's going to lead you to developing that good foundation of footwork and movement. So keep that in mind this week while you're fighting. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. And also, Anatol, do you want to plug anything you're doing real quick before you?
As always, the One Grind Nation, OGN, on the Facebook page at One Grind Nation. We got some really exciting stuff coming. So, you know, support everything. If you love this game as much as we do, you know, join us, help us out, you know, and stay on the grind.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.